Chapter 12. Alex was off along the quay of the Nevsky Prospect, looking for Fontanka Street, which Katriana had told him was not far from the Winter Palace. But he had gone nearly a mile and had not seen it. He had just begun to worry when the name of Fontanka Street had been changed, as so many others had, when he saw it. The fine old Anichkov Palace, now being used as a museum and library, the former home of the Dowager Empress. Now he found himself frightened by the idea of entering the building, the only building he had been in months, except for the stations, the bakery cellar, and the children's home. Surely they would see him as a street waif and a thief and throw him down the steps head first. Nevertheless, he climbed the steps, dusting his clothes as he went, straightening his cap. He entered an enormous, dark, quiet vestibule. In the corners, stone statuary. On the walls, dark paintings and heavy frames. But no people, no books. Surely there'd be books in a library. Cautiously, he moved forward until he stood in the center of the hall. Then a voice, echoing as if in a tunnel, said, "Yes, may I help you?" Alex was startled him. It frightened him more than if the voice had said, "Get out of here, you ragamuffin." He didn't reply, but looked around warily. He had no idea where the voice was coming from. "Are you looking for something in particular?" There it was. The voice came from a little old woman no bigger than he was. She was seated in a dark corner knitting. How could she see in the dark? Alex cleared his throat. "Yes, please. I'm looking for someone." "Come over, please. I can't see well, but I can hear very plainly. I can hear a whisper." Alex moved to the corner, and the woman peered through her heavy glasses. Her eyes seemed to be in tunnels of glass. "Now, who is it you wanted?" "I am looking for Basil Sergeyevich Sokolov. He works in the library." "Yes, yes, I know. He's the one who drags one foot and has the very cold hands. That man must have no gloves. Oh dear, there goes my ball of wool. Can I trouble you to find it for me? I'm nearly blind. By the time I find it, it'll be unwound across the hall." Alex picked it up and handed it to her. "Oh, your hands are so cold, too. I guess you have lost your gloves as well." "Yes," Alex said, "that's right. But do you know where I can find Basil Sergeyevich?" "You can go through those double doors over there and into the big room beyond. He will be one of the young men behind the long table." Alex thanked the old woman and crossed the hall to the dark wooden door, polished like a mirror. How long had he been in such a place? He opened it cautiously with the elaborate brass knob and found himself in an enormous room with shelves of books and papers. Here and there, some men pored over large volumes, but none of these men could be Basil. They were too old. At a very long table, two younger men were sorting papers. They raised their heads as Alex entered, and he dropped his eyes. Beneath the table he could see their feet. If one of these was Basil, would he have fine polished old wooden leather boots, or high black shoes? Alex looked up. They had gone back to their paperwork. One had a sweet face like Catriana's, but he was very blond. The other had a round, serious face, but his hair was like the dark oak of a door. Catriana's was too, Alex remembered very well. He eased closer to the desk, walking on his tiptoes so as not to disturb anyone. "Yes?" the fair young man asked sharply. Alex felt fearful and confused. He had not planned on what to say. "Yes, may I help you?" the man asked, looking Alex in the eye, then craning his neck to see him more completely. Alex felt like he was being sized up and recognized for what he was. I'm looking for a geography book," he said, his tongue doing the thinking. "A geography book? Was that so dreadful to ask for? What kind of geography book?" "A geography book of Russia, comrade." "Ah, well, of course, all the geography books will have outdated maps now. There has not been time to have the map show the new names of cities and so forth." "Oh, I see," Alex said. Was this man Basil? How could he know? Could he ask further questions? He knew somehow that it was wisest not to, so he only said, "Thank you, comrade," and hurried out of the room. Was the other man Basil? Had he failed in his important mission? He did not know. He waited now across the street from the Anichkov Palace, stamping his feet to keep them from going numb, waiting for the young men to emerge at the end of their working day. He clapped his hands together and blew on them. How reliable the body was, always to be able to produce hot breath no matter how cold it was. And then there was the man he had spoken to, walking hurriedly down Fontanka Street. This was not Basil. Alex knew it at once. The workers in the palace straggled out, one or two at a time, and when he thought they had all left, and he must somehow have missed the man he sought. The great doors opened, and a figure swathed in a heavy coat and a fur hat that covered his hair came slowly down the stairs. He paused at the bottom, then proceeded to walk down the street towards the embankment. He dragged one foot badly. Alex leaped forward and came up behind him. Please, sir, may I speak with you? The man did not turn around. Please, sir, Alex said in a voice a little louder, I am a friend of Katerina Sergieva. The man continued walking, but he spoke without turning around. Just follow me. Don't speak any more. Stay back a little and then approach me when I stop. Alex did what he was told. He let the man, who he now felt sure was Basil, get several yards ahead, and then followed him until he reached the banks of the Neva. There Basil stopped and went over the embankment. He looked over his shoulder in both directions, then nodded. Alex approached. I'm Alex, sir. Katriana was my teacher, and she told me to come and see you. I thought possibly it was me that you wanted in the library, Basil said, but I couldn't speak to you. I hoped you'd wait. Yes, Katriana spoke of you. Katriana? Have you seen her then? Yes, she has been to Leningrad. Is she here? Alex could not hold his excitement. No, she isn't. Then, has she done what she wanted to do? Alex asked eagerly. Yes, she has. But that's what I wish to do now. Where is Katriana? Alex had not dared to dream that he might see her again. He was in such a stir he almost forgot his main mission. She's in another country helping others, Basil said, looking around nervously. Could I go there? I will have to see. I think it might be arranged. I have a friend with a small boat. Now Alex remembered. But, sir, I am not alone. Ah, did you find your family then? That's splendid. Alex thought. Not exactly, he said. These are other boys like myself, and a girl as well. Other students from Kovrov? He was surprised. No, sir. They're just children with no homes, no families, like me. And where are they? They are close by here, down at the embankment. You will go ahead, and I will follow behind. We must be very careful. Alex hurried ahead. There were a few pedestrians on the Tochkov quay at this hour. The cold wind that blew from the river discouraged loitering, but there was a scattering of soldiers and regular police in their black uniforms and red caps. A priest walked slowly along the river, his robes, formerly black, now green with age. Alex waited a moment till all these had passed by, then looked back to see if Basil was in sight. Then he sped down the stairs to the lower embankment where the boys were still huddled together, some dozing, some playing cards. They were instantly awake and standing. What did he say? Kostya asked. But Alex had no time to answer because Basil had just reached the last step. Oh, Lord, he said, looking at the boys, lined up now as if for an army inspection. From the look on his face, Alex could see he was not pleased with what he saw. What had he expected? Alex had told him that his friends were homeless just as he was. He looked at the group. How used to the filthy, ragtag appearances he had become. It was he, with his grease-polished boots and brushed coat, who looked odd and out of place. Had Basil expected other threadbare but washed and brushed boys? Alex, Basil said, these are a great many, too many for a little boat. We can take you. We can take another one or two. The others later, perhaps. I have never sent so many at once. But I can't leave them, Alex said. It was my idea to come here, and I can't leave them now. They are my friends. And yes, he thought, my family. Basil said, Aha, I'll have to go home and think. I'll meet you here tomorrow at the same time. He left them. They ate the bread that Leon had found earlier, and then once again they huddled together for the night, now watching heavy barges crawling through the ice-clogged Neva, the floes crunching, the lanterns of the ships wavering and blinking. To see it, to feel the quiet of the city night, one would think all was well, all was right. In the morning they dispersed to ply the streets to forage. There were plenty of others in the same occupation. It's just like Moscow, only prettier, Alex said to Kostya. You'll see, Kostya said, the world is all the same. What makes you think it will be different in another place? Leningrad is like Moscow, only smaller and handsomer. The south is like the north, only warmer. It is still the world. This is the way it is. I have been to a lot of places. No, Alex said, I don't think so. You will be the one to see. It's because of the revolution here and the Civil War and the big war and the famines and the Tsar and the Bolsheviks that it is why it is bad here. But don't all countries have these things too? No. Alex was surprised at what these children who had never been to school did not know. It is only Russia that has had all these things. There is nothing left for the children, no people to care for them, no food for them to eat, no place for them to stay. There are too many of us for the government to care for. I should not let the government take care of me anyway, Kostya said. Well, we shall see who is right. There was a government bread store open that day, and Leon and Ivan had found the means to get some loaves. By mid-afternoon, they were all back at the embankment, awaiting Basil. Alex could hardly control his impatience. Would Basil find someone to take them all? It seemed too big a task, now that he thought of it. Would they have to remain here, after their hopes had been raised? As the time passed when Basil should have appeared, Alex's anxiety deepened. What had he led his friends to? More misery in the north instead of whatever relief in the south might have offered? Alex could feel the minutes of the afternoon tick as if by an enormous timepiece hung over his head. The boys grew restless. Your brother's teacher is no better than the government, Leon said. What did you expect? He works for them, doesn't he? Alex did not reply. Then suddenly Basil was there in a rush. I'm sorry, he said. They are taking prisoners down the quay, and there seem to be too many police. I thought it better to wait. Then he said, Boys, can I trust you all? You must understand that I am in danger if you are caught. If one of you tells of my involvement, he let this sink in. Perhaps it would not be so tragic if it were only I. I am only one library worker, but there are many others like you who want to leave. Many. If I am not here, fewer can go. We are all part of a lifeline. Peter said, We have already talked of that to be sure all want to go. And do you? Ask them, Peter said. Who of you want to go? Basil asked. Half a dozen arms shot up. Then one by one, three more and two more. Then Leon said, I don't want to leave the band, and raised his hand too. Alex clapped him on the back, but Basil regarded him sharply. Are you sure? He challenged. You cannot be a bad link. No, Leon mumbled, I won't be. All right, Basil said, all right. Then he seemed to withdraw like a turtle inside his overcoat and inside his head, thinking deeply behind a frown. You see, he said after a bit, if it was just one of you, it would not be so difficult. Not a lark, he laughed, and Alex thought it was the first time he'd seen this man laugh. But simple compared with trying to take all of you out. No, that's not so easy. But you know we must all go, Alex said anxiously. Everyone. Yes, I understand that, Basil said. Now here's what you must do. Tomorrow is Saturday. There are a few passenger trains moving then. That is the day the trains of wood come down from the Baltic. You must go to the train station early and wait for the first northbound train and try to get aboard. Peter laughed now. No worry, he said. We can get aboard. To tell the truth, Basil said, you have a better chance your way than traveling second class. You'll stay on until the last stop. You must be careful. That is right across the Gulf from Finland, and the GPU is looking for people leaving. Also, there are many soldiers traveling to Oranienbaum for the holidays. We'll be careful, Peter said, and when we get to the last stop, then what? Basil told them what they were to do. Then he took from his pocket a stub of pencil and a piece of crumpled paper. He looked about and counted the children, then wrote 12 and his initial B in an elaborate and beautiful script. Then he made a design that looked a bit like an onion dome of a church, and in it a tiny cross, but it was so rough one could not really say what it was. Keep this carefully, he said to Alex, and give it to the fisherman named Nikolai, whom you will find at the end of your journey. You will know him by his red and black beard. He is a fine man. He was in the seminary with me. Then he touched each child on the shoulder. God be with you, he said. Night fell on the Touchkov quay. The last of the trams rattled by, the gulls nested, and the children finally slept on the precipice of the unknown.